I was the girl chosen by the Hastings family to marry into their dynasty, but on my 18th birthday, when I was supposed to pick which brother to get engaged to, I froze. Grace Hastings, Aunt Grace to everyone except the people she terrified into calling her Miss Hastings, stood beside me with that soft, patient smile she used when she sensed I was about 2 seconds from mentally imploding. "Savvy, honey," she murmured, brushing my arm with reassuring fingers. "Have you made your choice?" Choice, right, as if my brain wasn't currently doing somersaults. I tried to breathe, tried to focus on the polished floor beneath my shoes. But the universe clearly had other plans, because another wave of stupid, reckless comments burst across my feed like fireworks. "Forget the twins. Let her stare at the demon uncle. He's only quiet because he's too old for her. Bet she wouldn't be dying on an operating table. She'd be screaming his name in bed." My stomach dipped. My spine locked. My vision sharpened like a camera lens snapping into cruel focus. The room wasn't loud, just a low hum of muted conversation, clinking glasses, the subtle scrape of chairs. But somehow the noise collapsed into silence the moment my gaze slid to the far corner. There he was, Hunter Hastings, the uncle, a man who didn't need to speak to command a room. He just had to exist in it. He sat half in shadow, half in the warm glow of the chandelier, like a creature who belonged to both worlds. His suit was tailored so perfectly it bordered on obscene, the deep charcoal fabric molding to a body built for sin and secrets. One leg crossed over the other in an effortless show of dominance, fingers tapping once against the armrest, slow and controlled. His eyes, dark, steady, unreadable, were locked on me as if he'd been waiting for the exact second my sanity started to unravel. Not glaring, not judging, just watching, like a panther assessing whether I was prey or something more interesting. A shiver slid down my spine. My lungs stalled. The world around me blurred at the edges. Hunter didn't speak. He didn't move. But I felt him in every pulse of my bloodstream. And from the way his gaze tightened, just a fraction, but enough, it seemed he already knew. I was cracking, and he was going to be the last person I wanted witnessing it, or the only one capable of pulling me back together. "Sweetheart," Grace murmured. And that word, soft, warm, familiar, slid over me like a blanket I suddenly couldn't feel. "Landon and Logan grew up with you. You're close. But this is your life, your choice. Who do you want by your side forever?" Her voice floated gently through the air, but the moment she finished, the entire room stilled. Conversations died mid-sentence. Chairs stopped creaking. Even the chandelier seemed to dim. Everyone turned to me. The silence dropped like a coffin lid, heavy, suffocating, final. Because this wasn't just about the three of us. This was about the future of the Hastings Empire, a legacy built on power, wealth, and a 100-year tradition of arranged marriages disguised as family honor. And me? I wasn't even supposed to exist in their world. I was the maid's daughter. My mother scrubbed the floors of the Hastings estate and smiled while serving tea on silver trays. She was gentle and quiet, and so brave it hurt. And when I was 5, she died saving Aunt Grace from a fire in the old underground wine cellar. An explosion of heat, smoke, and screaming. Her last moments were spent choking on ash, clutching Grace's shaking hand, whispering through the agony, "Please, just look after my little girl." Grace had sobbed, messy, hysterical sobs, while promising, "From now on, Savannah is mine. She'll be treated like family, like my own daughter, and she'll be our future daughter-in-law." My mother actually smiled as her eyes closed forever. And the Hastingses kept that promise. I grew up on silk sheets, under crystal chandeliers, eating from gold cutlery I wasn't originally meant to touch. They sent me to private academies with marble hallways. They dressed me in names worth more than houses. And the twins, Landon and Logan, were my whole world. My guardians, my tormentors, my comfort. My shadows, always a step behind. My gods, even when I didn't want them to be. And now I had to choose one. Like this was some twisted Hunger Games, relationship edition, where the prize was a lifetime commitment, and the loser had to pretend it didn't destroy him. How the hell was I supposed to pick between two people I loved like home? I glanced at them both, silently begging for a sign. A hint. Hell, a rock, paper, scissors gesture. Something to make this nightmare easier. But then the screen lit up again. Bright, cruel, overflowing. Why is she acting like this is hard? She really thinks both brothers want her? Lamau. They're only pretending because Hastings' mommy forced them. She's got the tragic orphan backstory. Boo-hoo. Still annoying. I signed up for a juicy love triangle, not this pity parade. At least she dies screaming on an operating table. Silver lining. Each comment landed like a razor across my skin. Sharp, cold, humiliating. My stomach lurched, my face burned, my hands trembled. I pinched my arm hard. It stung. Not a dream, not a hallucination. I was trapped in some dystopian romance nightmare where I was the evil side character, the unwanted extra who only exists to suffer so the main couple can shine. The one who gets chosen out of obligation, despised by her husband, forgotten by the world, and dies alone while the true lovers run into their happy ending without looking back. I wanted to scream, to tear the cameras down, to run, because they were wrong. They had to be. Landon and Logan loved me. They always had. They carried me when I sprained my ankle, held me when I cried over my nightmares, stole extra dessert for me at dinners, taught me to swim, to fight, to lie convincingly to the staff, protected me like I was made of glass. They loved me, right? Then I lifted my eyes to theirs, and my heart fractured, slowly and painfully, because in both of their faces, behind the carefully neutral masks, behind the polished Hastings smiles, I saw it. A flicker. Soft, quick, but unmistakable. Disgust. Landon and Logan Hastings. Identical in the ways that mattered to the world. Sharp jawlines carved like marble, matching steel gray eyes that could freeze or burn depending on their mood. The kind of faces that graced magazine covers, charity galas, and whispered scandals. But underneath the symmetry, they were night and day. Landon was cold season rain, controlled, contained. Every expression trimmed down to the essentials. His suits were always buttoned to the throat, his words measured, his gaze calm even when his hands trembled behind his back. He carried his emotions like a locked briefcase, never opened, never dropped. Logan, on the other hand, was wildfire. Laugh too loud, fight too fast, love too recklessly. The golden boy who broke rules just to see if anyone was brave enough to stop him. Cocky grin, lazy swagger, fists always bruised from punching something, or someone, who pushed him wrong. But now, both brothers, both boys I grew up loving, were staring at me like I was dirt scraped off their $1,000 shoes. My lungs tightened, air thinned, the room actually tilted. Aunt Grace grazed my arm, softly, gently, like she sensed I was seconds from shattering. "Savvy?" she whispered. "Are you ready to pick?" The moment she finished, the screen exploded again. "Let's go, rock bottom loading!" She's totally gonna pick both. Peak delusion. In the OG version, she chose Landon. Spoiler, he treated her like a corpse. She thought he was gentle because she was sick. Nah, babe. He was busy railing the heroine. "Honk honk, our resident clown has arrived." That last line stung so sharply my spine jolted. My perfect Landon. The one who tucked me into bed when I had fevers. The one who cleaned my scraped knees. The one who taught me how to tie a tie because he said, "You should know every skill you can." That Landon cheated, lied, loved someone else enough to betray me? My stomach dropped. And then the comments shifted, like knives turning. With big bro playing fake husband, baby bro takes the heroine. Heroine still cries in her sleep, though. She misses her first love. Logan even pretends to be Landon sometimes, just so she won't cry alone. My mind blanked. Logan, who burned so bright the world couldn't look at him for too long. Logan, who hated Landon's shadow with every cell in his body. Logan, who punched mirrors just because his reflection looked too much like his brother. He pretended to be him, just to comfort me, just to keep me from breaking. That wasn't love. That was agony dressed up as devotion. Pathetic, desperate, terrifying. A love that hurt more than it healed. A love that swallowed the person whole. My throat tightened. My vision blurred around the edges, and suddenly the realization hit. Heavy, cruel, undeniable. No matter which one I chose, I was already losing both. Sweetheart? Aunt Grace's voice cut through the static in my head, like a warm hand on a freezing shoulder. I dragged myself out of the spiral and forced my gaze back to the brothers. Logan looked away so fast it was almost comical, like locking eyes with me might accidentally summon a contract he'd have to sign in blood. His jaw flexed, shoulders tight, throat bobbing in a swallow he thought no one saw. Landon was smoother, more polished, but the truth slipped through anyway. His lashes lowered with that practiced elegance, but they dropped too quickly, too deliberately. A tiny betrayal of discomfort, a flicker of "don't pick me." It punched the air out of my lungs. This engagement, this destiny, this future they'd built around my name since childhood. It wasn't love. It wasn't honor. It wasn't devotion. It was a burden. A weight tied to them because of a promise made by someone who died saving a family she didn't belong to. I swallowed against the ache climbing up my throat, forcing everything messy and vulnerable down where no one could see it. I turned to Aunt Grace. She was watching me with the kind of hope that pressed guilt deep into the bones. "Grace," I whispered. The tremble in my voice slipped out despite every effort to cage it. "Can I not choose either of them?" Her eyes widened. "Why?" But then she really looked at me. The panic behind my ribs, the tremor in my hands, the humiliation burning the back of my neck. Understanding softened her features like a warm blanket laid carefully over a wound. "Oh, baby." She cupped my cheek, thumb brushing a tear I didn't remember letting fall. "Of course, I should have known this would be hard for you." Her voice gentled even more. "You three grew up like siblings. It's not easy picking one over the other." And then, like flipping a switch, she clapped her hands and plastered on a bright, theatrical smile, the kind she used during charity galas to mask stress. "Fine, we'll leave it to fate," she announced cheerfully. "Butler, go grab the damn straws." Even now, even when the world was watching, even when this entire situation was spiraling into a circus fire, Aunt Grace still tried to fix it all, still tried to protect me, still tried to play the perfect mother figure she promised to be. She always made room for my fear, always tried to soften the blow, always tried to save me from the things I wasn't strong enough to face alone. But the moment she tried to take the pressure off me, the comments shifted. This time like knives dipped in poison. "Bitch can't make up her mind, so she's throwing Mommy Hastings under the bus now? No matter who draws the short stick, he's gonna resent Hastings' mommy forever." And her mom wasn't some saint either, playing the hero just to guilt-trip the Hastings into taking her daughter? Pathetic. She's the reason the twins are stuck in this goddamn mess to begin with. My heart stopped. They weren't just attacking me anymore. They weren't mocking my indecision. They weren't dragging the twins into more drama. They were talking shit about my mother, the woman who died burning alive to save this family, the woman who spent her last breath protecting Aunt Grace, the woman who trusted the Hastings to raise me like their own. They were calling her pathetic, manipulative, a burden. And that was my fucking line. I curled my fingers into my palms until my nails bit into skin. Hard, painful, grounding. I refused to let a single tear fall for them, not anymore. "No," I said, louder, stronger, cutting through the murmurs like a blade. "We don't need to draw anything." A pause, a stillness. Then I delivered the blow. "I don't even like either of them." The reaction was instant. Gasps cracked through the room like gunfire. A woman actually dropped her champagne glass. Someone choked on air. Even Aunt Grace's eyes widened just a fraction. But the people who looked the most stunned? The twins. Logan's head snapped toward me. His whole body coiled like a lit fuse. His eyes were blazing, pupils blown wide. Jaw locked so tightly I could almost hear the enamel strain. "You're lying," he snapped. "You're with us all the time, Savvy. You don't even talk to other guys." His voice rose, sharp and furious, the wildfire finally leaping out of its containment. "How the hell could you like someone else?" Logan always had heat in him, fire in his bloodstream. But now? He was an inferno looking for something, someone to burn. My breath stuttered. My body instinctively took a step back, like recoil from a flame. I do like someone, I whispered, pulse a frantic drum against my ribs. Someone else, but he's still family. That was the moment Logan's expression shifted. The anger didn't fade, it morphed into something colder, darker, sharper. A slow, wicked smirk pulled at the corner of his mouth, dripping with cruel amusement. "Oh, this I gotta hear," he drawled. "Who in this family is hotter than us, huh?" He leaned forward, eyes glittering like knives. "Who managed to catch your eye, princess?" He thought he had me cornered. He thought this was a joke. He thought I was bluffing. Even Landon looked up from his perfectly still posture. His gaze locked onto mine. Calm, assessing, dissecting. "Who is it?" he asked quietly. Too quietly, like a man preparing himself for an answer he already hated. My thoughts scrambled. My heart slammed. My throat closed. Names tangled together. Faces blurred. Every exit in the room felt boarded shut. My fingers trembled as I fidgeted with my nails, as if they could anchor me. My eyes darted desperately. Walls, windows, floor, shadows, searching for a lifeline, a loophole, a direction. The Hastings Empire wasn't just old money, it was ancient money, the kind of legacy built on steel, blood, and the occasional hostile takeover disguised as a charity acquisition. Generations of power polished into perfection. Their logo alone could send competitors scrambling for bankruptcy lawyers. And yet, behind all that prestige, pure, unfiltered dysfunction. The family tree wasn't a tree at all. It was a thorny, tangled mess, like someone had shoved a forest, a soap opera, and a viper pit into a blender and hit puree. Cousins with trust funds and trust issues, stepchildren who'd bite before they'd blink, parasites who married in for money and stayed for the drama. And me? I was the bullseye, the girl-shaped target. The maid's daughter who'd gone from sleeping on a cot behind the laundry room to designer bed sheets and a personalized security detail. Too low-born to be accepted, too favored to be ignored, too close to the inheritance line for their comfort, so they punished me in every petty, spiteful way they could imagine. "Practice fall," they'd say before tripping me at gala rehearsals. "Oops," they'd coo as red wine soaked into my silk gowns like bloodstains. "Did you hear?" they'd whisper, feeding rumors into hallways like toxic perfume. And I swallowed it, all of it, not because I was weak, because fighting back would only make things worse for Aunt Grace, and for me. It wasn't until Landon noticed the bruises blooming along my arms like violet fingerprints that everything changed. He snapped. Logan snapped harder. A cousin ended up with a broken nose and 3 missing teeth. The twins nearly got disowned. The Hastings family got a warning written in blood and bone. "Touch Savannah Summers, you die." After that, no one laid a hand on me again. Not physically, anyway. So yeah, Logan wasn't wrong. He couldn't imagine me falling for someone who used to treat me like I was worthless. I had no shortage of tormentors, but crushes? 0. But the floating comments didn't care about logic, truth, or my actual life. Reverse psychology much? Playing hard to get now? Girl thinks acting spicy will make the boys chase her. LMAO. She's a snake if she picks. A tease if she doesn't. Honestly, y'all just hate her no matter what she does. Fur, let her breathe. Anyway, if she's not picking the twins, she is staring at Demon Uncle Thope. He heard I like someone else and was like, "Bet, my turn." Man's been in love with her forever but kept it quiet because she was the nephew's little shadow. Otherwise, she wouldn't die on an operating table. She'd die from multiple orgasms. I blinked. What the actual hell? Had I just gotten defense? In this flaming garbage heap of a narrative? But my brief shock evaporated when the comments launched themselves straight into NSFW fanfiction territory. Hunter Hastings. Uncle Hunter. The man built like a sin committed on purpose. The man who hovered in the shadows like they were custom made for him. The man with sharp cheekbones, sharper eyes, and a resting expression that screamed, "I've buried secrets bigger than you." He liked me? Liked me? Absolutely not. Impossible, right? Slowly, too slowly, I turned my head. And there he was, leaning back in a dark leather armchair like a villain introduced in Chapter 1, but revealed as the endgame in Chapter 30. One leg crossed over the other, suit stretched over broad shoulders, whiskey glass turning lazily in his hand. Not looking at anyone, except me. His eyes were a storm, dark, dangerous, burning with an intensity that felt wrong. Wrong because it was too sharp, too focused, too hungry. There was violence in the way he held himself back. A barely leashed wildfire coiled behind his ribs, and the worst part, when our gazes met, his restraint cracked just a hair. That's it. That's our demon uncle, hot on the outside, boiling lava on the inside. The comment didn't just hit me, it detonated inside my skull. For one horrifying heartbeat, I felt it again. Hunter's stare wasn't just on me, it was inside me, heavy, consuming, slow like magma inching through rock, burning everything it touched. My skin prickled, my breath tangled, and something low in my stomach coiled tight. I dropped my gaze so fast it almost looked like I bowed. My heart slammed against my ribs, each beat like it was trying to punch its way out and run for its life. From across the room, Landon's voice cracked through the tension like someone dropping a bucket of ice water on my spine. Savvy, cold, controlled, sharp enough to cut. Who is it? Why did he care? Why suddenly care? If he and Logan were in love with other people, if I was a placeholder in some sick cosmic joke, then me backing out should have been a damn relief. A gift. A free pass. So why did he look like he needed the answer like oxygen? Aunt Grace's eyes flicked toward me, narrowing the way they did when she sensed danger. Her posture shifted, not dramatic, just enough to make everyone else instinctively straighten, like she was the general and they were foot soldiers about to get inspected. Savannah. Her voice was soft, but her gaze laser-scanned the room with a warning. Is someone bothering you? My panic spiked. I felt it rising in my throat. No one's bothering me, I swear. The words tumbled out too fast, too defensive. I can't say. Because how do you tell a room full of people the truth? How do you admit that the person making your pulse trip over itself was older, way older, and not even remotely someone you should be fantasizing about? The confession tore out of me like ripping skin. The person I like is older, way older, and definitely not someone I'm supposed to like. The last sentence thundered in my head even after I stopped speaking. I clenched my fists so tightly my nails bit crescents into my palms, and I squeezed my eyes shut before I could see anyone's reaction. I couldn't face it. Not the confusion, not the disgust, and definitely not, oh my God. The sugary, over-the-top voice dragged my eyes open like someone yanking back curtains. Bailey White. Of course, standing in the foyer like she'd materialized there for dramatic effect. Blonde curls bouncing, sundress fluttering in a little breeze that didn't even exist indoors, looking like a Disney princess who'd just caught me confessing to burning down her enchanted forest. Her hands flew to her mouth, her big blue eyes widening with theatrical shock so fake it should have come with its own spotlight. She stared at me like she'd walked in on the scandal of the century. And I swear, for a second, I felt Hunter's presence behind me. Quiet, coiled, dangerous. Watching, waiting, burning. There she is, our heroine, making the room shine just by existing. Look at her, all cute and innocent like a baby bunny who wandered into a porno. Of course, the moment Bailey floated into the entryway like some sparkly Disney mascot, the invisible comment section in my head went full simp mode. Heart emojis, wolf whistles, the works. It was pathetic. And right on cue, the Hastings brothers turned toward her like she was some celestial being who'd just descended from heaven. Both of them smiling, like I wasn't 3 seconds away from crumbling into dust right beside them. Hey, what are you doing here? Logan asked, surprised but pleased, like a golden retriever who'd just been reunited with its owner. We were supposed to meet at the library, remember? Bailey chirped, twirling a perfect blonde curl around one finger in that practiced, I'm not flirting, but I absolutely am way. You guys were late, so I figured I'd just come find you. She giggled, a high tinkling sound that made half the room instinctively lean in. Didn't expect to walk in on a soap opera, though. Then she turned to me. Her expression softened into something syrupy sweet. But the look in her eyes? Sharp, cruel, hungry. Savannah, she said gently, too gently. I know Grace took care of you like her own, but seriously? Her smile tightened, razor-edged. Crushing on her husband? That hit like a slap. No, worse. like being shoved face first into boiling water. That's messed up even for you. And then, like she wanted to make absolutely sure the knife twisted the right way, she added, "Don't tell people we're friends. I don't hang out with homewreckers." My stomach dropped. My ears rang. The room blurred at the edges like someone smeared reality with their thumb. I could feel my legs trembling under me, barely holding me upright. "You're lying," I breathed out, voice shaking. "Don't twist my words, Bailey." She blinked innocently. Fake soft, fake confused, fake freaking everything. "You said it yourself. You like someone older. Way older." She tapped her chin as if thinking deeply. Let's see." Her eyes slid across the room. To him, to Hunter, sitting in the shadows, all carved jawline and darkness, still as a loaded gun. Her lips curled into a triumphant, wicked smirk. Who else fits that description besides her hot, mysterious, way too refined for her Uncle Hunter? The silent spectators in my head went feral. She's not wrong. That man is a walking thirst trap. Hastings' family's got drama and daddy issues. I'm living. This tea is boiling hot, and I'm burning myself on purpose. Bailey said it loud enough for the whole damn house to hear. And people did hear. Faces shifted. Whispers stirred like a hive of buzzing insects. Eyes sharpened, some confused, some entertained, some already judging. Even the twins. Even they had a flicker of doubt, like the idea wasn't completely impossible. My throat tightened. I turned to the one person I trusted. My anchor. My safe place. "Grace, Save it," Bailey cut in smoothly, stepping forward like she wanted the spotlight on her. "If you're gonna be a slut, at least own it." A ripple ran through the room. Gasps, snickers, a few gleeful oohs. Damn, she said that with her whole chest. Queen behavior. Is it hot in here, or is it just the emotional arson? Okay, but where's Uncle Hunter's rebuttal? And beneath all of it, the whispers, the judgment, the humiliation, I felt it. Hunter's gaze. Dark. Electric. Seething with something I didn't dare name. Like the room had caught fire, and he was the only one holding the match. Then finally he moved. Hunter Hastings lifted his head from the leather armchair, slow and deliberate, like a man waking from a nap he hadn't actually been asleep for. His eyes locked onto Bailey with a calm so lethal, it felt like the air itself tightened. "Bailey White, right?" His voice wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. It was low, silky, razor-sharp, a voice that could slice a throat without ever raising its volume. Bailey flinched like he'd slapped her with just the sound of her name. "You do realize I'm in this room, right?" he asked, tone cool enough to frost the windows. "So tell me, why exactly can't Savannah like me?" Silence. Not just quiet, dead quiet. The kind that made everyone suddenly aware of their heartbeat. Bailey's lips parted, but nothing came out. For once in her life, she wasn't performing. She was terrified. Before she could recover, Landon stepped between them so fast the air shifted, his arm thrown out like he was shielding her from an incoming bullet. Uncle Hunter, Bailey was just making a fair assumption. "You and Savannah," he swallowed. "You've never even spoken." Logan chimed in, jaw clenched, eyes burning. "Yeah, she barely knows you." Hunter looked between them, amused. A quiet chuckle slipped out, low, cold, and dangerous enough to make the hair on my arms rise. "So instead of believing she might actually like me," he said, taking a single step forward, "you'd rather slap her with some incest fantasy bullshit and call it a day?" The words hit like gunshots. "You two are cruel." Every muscle in the room tensed. Every smirk vanished. Bailey, Logan, and Landon froze like they'd just been caught naked in church, guilty, exposed, and scrambling for excuses that wouldn't come. But Hunter wasn't done. He stood up with the lazy, predatory grace of a lion stretching after a nap, broad shoulders rolling, sleeves tugging at his forearms, shirt pulling tight across his chest. Then he strolled toward me, slow and unhurried, like he owned the floor he walked on. My breath hitched. Everyone watched him, no one daring to speak. When he passed me, he dipped his head, bringing his mouth close to my ear, close enough that I felt his breath ghost along my cheek. "Now you see," he murmured, voice a sin all by itself. "Some people aren't who you thought they were." I shivered. Couldn't help it. Couldn't hide it. "Open your eyes, Savvy," he continued softly. Stop letting people play you. My head nodded without my permission, like my body answered him before my brain could catch up. And then, God help me, he dropped a large warm hand onto my head and ruffled my hair. Not playful, not casual, possessive, like I was his favorite girl in the whole damn world. Internal screams exploded from the imaginary comment section. He pet her. I'm dead. Funeral's at 6. That was not a casual hair ruffle. That was foreplay. Someone get me ice water. I'm combusting. Y'all better relax. She's barely legal. And he's barely holding it together. 1 more inch and he's flipping her over his shoulder. My entire body flushed so hard I thought I might actually faint. Thank you, Hunter, I whispered, voice embarrassingly small. He paused. Then he tilted his head, not breaking eye contact, as if savoring the sound of his name on my tongue. His eyes darkened, softened, sharpened, all at once. Hunter? He repeated, and the way he said it made heat pool in places I didn't want to think about. Then he smiled. Not his usual half-smirk. Not the polite, empty curve the family always got, but a slow, devastating smile that swept up my spine like fire and made the air around us hum. Sure, he murmured. We can go with that. I had no idea what the hell that meant. But my skin felt too hot, my pulse too loud, and the room suddenly too small for the both of us. All I knew was that every part of me was awake, because of him. The so-called engagement party Aunt Grace had painstakingly planned for me, a total disaster. A fireworks display of chaos disguised as social etiquette. Gossip exploded like wildfire, and every branch of the Hastings family with a grudge, or a pair of binoculars, pounced like vultures. The cousins who thrived on my humiliation were practically writing eulogies for my reputation before the cake was even cut. But Aunt Grace, God bless her, steel-spined saint, didn't even flinch. She didn't scold me, didn't sigh in disappointment. Instead, she dove headfirst into planning my 18th birthday party, the official debut into adulthood. She wanted me to shine, to reclaim space in a world that seemed determined to humiliate me. I stood outside her bedroom door, hand frozen mid-knock. My stomach twisted into knots. I felt like a walking disaster, a scandal wrapped in silk. This woman had given me everything, and now I was just this, a mess of mistakes and whispers. The door swung open before I could even decide if I had the courage to enter. Savannah? Aunt Grace blinked, the way she always did when surprise softened into concern. Aren't you supposed to be getting your makeup done right now? I was on my way. My voice barely carried. Her eyes softened, taking me in. She didn't judge, didn't scold. She just looked at me like she always had, like I was still her little girl. It's not your fault, she said, voice gentle, careful. I pushed too hard. I didn't consider how complicated this must feel for you. She gave me a slow, understanding smile. You may not end up as my daughter-in-law, but you'll always be my daughter. Something inside me cracked. My chest heaved. I couldn't even pretend anymore. I broke. Sobs tore out of me like I was 5 years old again, collapsing into her arms. She held me like the world had stopped, smoothing my hair, whispering soothing nonsense that somehow made sense. Easy now. No more tears. You'll mess up your mascara. When I finally stopped hyperventilating into her shoulder, she took me by the hand and led me to the prep room. The stylists were ready, brushes in hand, palettes open, lights glaring. The chaos of the morning faded as they worked their magic, transforming me, piece by piece, into someone unrecognizable from the trembling girl outside her door. By the time I stepped into the ballroom, I barely recognized myself. The spotlight caught the shimmer of the fabric, the curve of the gown hugging all the right places. My skin glowed like it had been kissed by moonlight, and for one fleeting, magical moment, no one remembered the scandal. No one remembered I was just the maid's daughter. The whispers started immediately. Damn! Didn't know she could clean up that good. Okay, I'll give it to her. She looks expensive. She's giving rich bitch energy tonight. A cluster of girls gathered, giggling, fawning, practically hanging on my every word. "Savannah, you seriously look like a princess." I managed a soft smile. "Thanks." And then, the voice that made every hair on my body stand on end. "There you are, Savannah. Took me forever to find you." Bailey White, of course. She glided through the crowd like she owned every inch of the marble floor, stilettos clicking with the precision of gunshots. Every eye in the room followed her, willingly or not. She stopped in front of me and let her gaze roam slowly, deliberately, the kind of scrutinizing glance that made me want to shrink into my gown. "Wow," she said, lips curling in that infuriating mix of amusement and malice. "Who knew a little bit of couture could turn trailer trash into a Vogue cover?" My teeth clenched. "You almost pass for one of us," she added, eyes glinting like she was enjoying the sting of every word. "Almost." Her smirk hit me like a slap, and I felt it deep under my skin, a reminder that even in silk and spotlight, she would always try to make me feel like I didn't belong. Her voice wasn't quiet, not even an inch. She knew exactly what she was doing. The room turned. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Whispered side-eyes and stifled snickers rippled through the crowd. I'd been here before. The subtle reminders that I didn't belong. That my mother had been just the help. That I was some charity project masquerading as a debutante. But usually, Landon or Logan would appear like twin storms, fire in their eyes, shutting that shit down before it had a chance to breathe. Not tonight. I inhaled slowly, chest tight. My hands curled into fists at my sides, and then I looked at Bailey. Dead. In. The eyes. "Funny," I said, calm but sharp, cutting through the chatter like a knife. "I seem to remember you grew up in a 2-bedroom shack off Highway 19. Your mom still works the night shift at the Waffle House, doesn't she?" Her face went pale, the kind of ghostly white that made me want to gag. "So tell me, Bae," I continued, letting the words roll off my tongue like a challenge. "When did you get so obsessed with playing judge and jury?" The mental comment section in my head went wild. Damn, she hit her with the Waffle House combo platter. Finally, some backbone. Not the usual trailer park girls shouldn't throw stones energy. Bailey's wide, doe eyes blinked frantically. She let go of her champagne glass. It fell to the floor with a shattering crash, crystals spraying across the marble like tiny diamonds. She stumbled back, a hand pressed over her mouth, the other reaching for support like the world had just turned against her. I was just trying to give you advice," she whispered, voice trembling, almost pleading. "Why would you twist it like that?" Cue the dramatics. Like clockwork, Landon and Logan appeared at her side, moving faster than the eye could track, each assuming a protective stance. "Bailey, are you okay?" Landon asked, voice tight with concern. She sniffled but said nothing. Her gaze slid to me, and the expression she wore, so convincingly wounded it could have won her an Oscar, was practically suffocating. Logan's eyes flared. "Savannah, again? Are you seriously going after Bailey? Again?" "Again?" I echoed, stunned. "You think I started this?" "She came at me first, twice," I added firmly, voice loud enough for more than a few ears to twitch. "I'm not apologizing for defending myself." I squared my shoulders, chin lifted, standing tall despite the way my chest still throbbed with residual fear from the earlier drama. Logan stared. His gaze was sharp, like twin daggers of frustration and loyalty, but I could see it flicker. The first sign he wasn't entirely sure how to respond. Bailey clutched Landon's arm like she was about to collapse, sniffled again, and whispered, "Logan, it's okay. If Savannah doesn't want to apologize, that's her choice. Don't let me ruin your relationship with her." "Bitch!" Logan's jaw clenched. You could practically hear the lock snap in his skull. "Wrong is wrong," he barked, his voice echoing over the now silent crowd. "I'm not gonna just stand here and let you bulldoze people without consequences." He pivoted to me, eyes cutting me down like a blade. Stone cold, impossible to ignore. "If you won't apologize," he said, every word weighted like a hammer hitting metal, Don't even bother packing for Europe. I felt my stomach twist. Europe. The trip. The memory of supposed fun, of supposed dreams, now laced with a threat I couldn't ignore. But I didn't flinch. I met his gaze evenly, a smirk threatening to rise even as my heart hammered like a war drum. "You're terrifying when you care," I murmured under my breath. He didn't blink, didn't even crack a smile. The crowd exhaled as one, part relief, part tension, all anticipation. And in that moment I realized, tonight wasn't just about me defending myself. Tonight was about showing them all that Savannah Summers didn't bow. Not ever. Landon and Logan had their futures mapped out before they even learned how to tie their shoes. Europe was the plan. Boarding schools, Ivy League business degrees, networking galas before they even hit 20. Groomed to inherit the Hastings empire like kings in waiting. I knew all of that. And I knew exactly what happened when my protectors left. Back in high school, some cousin cornered me, lips curled with malice. "What happens when your precious twins leave the country?" she sneered. "You think they can protect you forever? You're just a bug once they're gone. Anyone can crush you." I'd felt that sting before. But Logan had thrown an arm over my shoulder like he was the world's shield. "Dumbass," he'd said, tone teasing but eyes serious. "She's our shadow. Where we go, she goes. And the Hastings have enough money to put a second sun in the sky. You think they can't afford a third plane ticket?" That had been their promise. Germany, elite universities, big shot futures, endless possibilities. And me? I'd busted my ass for 3 years, studied until my eyes burned, stacked AP credits like bricks in a wall, all to keep up with them, all to prove I belonged. And now? Now he was dangling that promise like a leash, like my life was somehow tied to theirs. I laughed, a bitter, broken sound that scraped raw across my throat, tasting of anger and humiliation. "You really think I give a damn about your fancy college plans?" My voice cut through the ballroom chatter like a knife. Heads turned, glasses wobbled. But I didn't care. "I'll build my own future, right here, with or without you." The words burned on my tongue, and I yanked up the hem of my gown, feeling the silky fabric slide against my skin, and stormed off the dance floor. The music swelled behind me, a distorted, mocking soundtrack. People laughed, clinked their glasses, whispered secrets I didn't want to hear. But for me, everything was dead silent, empty, hollow, like someone had scooped out my insides and replaced them with air. The glittering chandeliers blurred above me. My heels clicked sharp against the marble. Each step echoed like a drumbeat of defiance. For the first time, I didn't feel like Savannah Summers, the girl raised in silk and gold. I felt like me, angry, raw, alive. And I knew one thing. I didn't need a map. I didn't need Europe, Ivy League, or the Hastings Empire. I just needed a fire. And right now, that fire was mine. "Go ahead and cry, Savvy, don't hold it in." That voice, smooth, low, and way too close, hit me out of nowhere. My heart lurched. I whipped around. Hunter Hastings was standing there, like he'd materialized out of thin air. The man who usually lingered in the shadows of the Hastings estate, whiskey glass in hand, all untouchable cool and untouchable danger, was suddenly here, right beside me. He didn't say another word, just reached out and handed me a folded white handkerchief, casual as though offering someone a mint after dinner. "Here," he said. I froze. My gaze bounced between him and the damn thing like it was some priceless gem. Slowly, trembling fingers closed around the soft, crisp fabric. "Thanks, Uncle Hunter," I whispered. But I didn't use it. That handkerchief screamed wealth. Custom, designer, silk so fine it probably required its own separate insurance policy. I'd rather sob into my sleeve than risk staining something I couldn't even afford to dry clean. I clutched it awkwardly, like it might combust if I touched it too hard. Hunter tilted his head, one dark eyebrow raised, half smile tugging at his lips. "What, do I look like a serial killer or something?" "Huh?" I blinked, taken aback. "You always look like you're facing a firing squad whenever I'm around," he said, a hint of dry humor threading through the low timbre of his voice. Once, Hunter had just been the cool younger uncle in the Hastings family, the one we all called Uncle Hunter out of habit. Handsome, yes. Intimidating? Absolutely. Untouchable royalty, basically. I treated him like he existed in a different stratosphere. But now I knew. I knew he'd been harboring some kind of slow burn obsession, a twisted, quiet crush that had grown under the radar for years, and I didn't know what to do with that knowledge. My chest ached just thinking about it. Luckily, he didn't push. He didn't smother or overstep. He just let the silence stretch, let me exist in it without judgment. Then, he exhaled slowly, a soft, deliberate sound that seemed to drain some of the tension from the room. "Whatever, we've got time," he said, voice steady. Then he looked at me, really looked at me, dead on, calm, serious, not a trace of mockery, not a flicker of doubt. "Savannah," he said, low and firm, "I just hope you stop living like you're someone else's charity case." The words landed like a hammer. Don't shrink yourself to fit their comfort. Make a damn life that belongs to you, your rules, your name on the door. Even if I'm not in that picture with you. The way he said it, calm, resolute, with zero overt emotion, pierced me somewhere deep, quiet, persistent. A strange ache that felt both grounding and terrifying. Something inside me cracked. I wanted to speak, to say something smart, something funny, something that would make me sound in control. But no words came. And that was fine, because for the first time in forever, I felt like someone, him, was seeing me. Not the charity case, not the maid's daughter, not the girl being judged by everyone else in the room. Just Savannah. And that was more dangerous and more intoxicating than anything I'd felt before. Apparently, I had officially made the Hastings brothers' shit list, and they weren't subtle about it. They ghosted me, fully. No texts, no calls, no passive-aggressive side-eyes during breakfast, no subtle glances at the gala, no teasing remarks in the hallway. Nothing. Like I had ceased to exist. And I was just left there, floating in silence, until college entrance results dropped. That was when Bailey White decided to blow up social media like a one-woman fireworks show. She posted the most perfectly staged photo I'd ever seen. There she was, radiant, standing in between Landon and Logan. One Hastings brother on each side, both gazing down at her like she was spun from goddamn moonlight. The lighting, the angles, the smug little curl at the corner of her lips. It was all designed to humiliate me without ever saying a word. The caption? "It's do or die season. My heart's pounding, but at least I've got my 2 nights." Comments flooded in like a tidal wave. "OMG official soft launch?" Queen behavior, Bailey always wins. She's the main character, period. What they didn't know? I had 2 unread texts sitting in my phone, both glowing like tiny accusations. Logan. LMAO. "You still playing hard to get? With your sad little GPA? Good luck getting into any school without us dragging your ass abroad." Landon. "Didn't go well? Don't worry. We're heading to Germany. Hunter says we can donate a building. You'll get in easy." I didn't respond. Not because I didn't care. I just didn't. My thumb hovered over the screen for a heartbeat, then dropped. Instead, I stared at the results page, blinking at the number that gleamed like a middle finger to their plans. München, not Ivy League territory. Not fancy schmancy European universities with old money connections. Not even close to the elite glass-walled lecture halls they dreamed of. But it was mine. Solid. Real. Enough to get me into a reputable university here in the States. And that was all I needed. No nights, no staged photos, no ghosting twins, no Bailey White's smug smile. Just me. And for the first time in forever, that felt like enough. I closed the laptop with a satisfying click, like snapping a leash in half. The world could burn around me. The Hastings could throw their money and privilege at me. Bailey could try to photobomb my entire life. But this time, I was walking away unscathed, and I wasn't looking back. I knew what I wanted now. And it didn't involve chasing after Hastings' family breadcrumbs or trying to live in someone else's shadow. If I wanted freedom, real, messy, intoxicating freedom, I had to carve it out for myself. I had to earn it, claw it, and make it mine. So after locking in my college choice, I threw myself into every shift I could find. Coffee shops, freelance gigs, late-night deliveries, anything that paid. The only thing I was halfway decent at? Photography. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. Aunt Grace must have seen something I didn't, because suddenly doors started opening. Clients appeared out of nowhere. Fashion events, engagement shoots, catalog work. She never said a word, didn't need to. I knew her fingerprints were everywhere. Subtle, unseen, making sure I had the space and opportunity to build my own path. One night, after a shoot that had stretched past midnight, I dragged myself back home. My legs felt like lead. My hair was plastered to my neck from the heat and sweat, and my camera bag was digging into my shoulder like a punishment. The house was eerily quiet. My phone was dead. I slipped inside barefoot, shoes dangling from my fingers, moving like a shadow through the hallway. And then, you were out late. I jumped like I'd been hit with a stun gun. A sharp click, and the chandelier overhead blazed to life, flooding the room with brutal, unforgiving light. I raised my hand to shield my face, squinting through my fingers, heart hammering like a jackhammer. And there he was, Landon Hastings. Arms crossed, shoulders rigid, leaning against the couch like he owned every molecule of air in the room. His expression was flat, cold, unreadable, but sharp enough to cut steel. "How long are you going to keep this tantrum up?" His voice was low, even, with that calm menace that had always made me flinch. I didn't answer. I just kept walking, careful to maintain the distance between us. He stepped forward, the sound of his shoes against the marble echoing through the quiet house. Face dark, eyes stormy. "Savannah." I froze halfway up the stairs, spinning on my heel to look him dead in the eye. "You think Logan and I spoiled you so much that now you don't give a damn what anyone says?" "No, Landon," I said, voice steady, raw. "I think it's the other way around. You and Logan," I continued, hands clenching at my sides. "You've always treated me like some pathetic side character in your little family drama. I was just the girl you tossed between you when you got bored." He said nothing, just stared, jaw tight, silence hanging like a noose. Then, as if he'd finally decided to adult for once in his damn life, he sighed, a long, heavy exhale that carried frustration, resignation, and maybe even regret. "I know you're pissed about how things went down with Bailey. Twice, I get it. We messed up. But come on," he said, leaning closer, voice dropping a notch, almost pleading. "Don't throw your future away out of spite. We're committing to Bailey. Neither of us is marrying anyone else." I laughed bitterly, a sound that echoed like broken glass in the empty house. "And you?" he continued, voice sharp. "Without the Hastings name, without a degree or a rich daddy? What are you gonna do, Savvy? End up like your mom, scrubbing floors for rich folks who don't even know your name?" "And hey," he added, almost as an afterthought, "I'm not heartless. I'll give you one more shot. Tomorrow, 11 a.m. flight. Don't be late." I laughed again, louder this time, the sound full of rebellion. Too bad for him. I already had a ticket for the 10 a.m. train. For a moment, I thought he might call me out, glare, or throw me one of his cold, judgmental stares. But then he just nodded, that smug Landon half-smile in place, hands casually shoved into his pockets. "Bailey's waiting for me back at our place," he said, voice smooth, final. "I gotta tuck her in." And just like that, he turned, walking out like he owned the world, or at least, like the world owed him everything he wanted. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension in my chest finally loosen. For the first time in a long time, I felt untethered, and damn, it felt good. The train station was alive with the usual chaos, rolling suitcases, clattering announcements, hurried footsteps. But Grace Hastings's grip on my suitcase handle made it feel like the center of a hurricane had dropped into my chest. "Sweetheart," she murmured, voice thick, "with a 1500 S8, you could have gotten into Columbia. NYU. You're walking away from every single damn Ivy League door." I shrugged, keeping my gaze fixed on the bustling crowd ahead. "Because that's the only way I can cut the cord. For good." Her lips trembled. The glossy mask of composure cracked just enough for me to see the raw ache beneath. "Chicago? That far out? Why not stay here in New York? I'll barely get to see you again." "I'll see you," I said firmly. "Just not like this. Not under their shadow." She exhaled, defeated. Grace didn't argue, didn't beg. She just nodded once, her hand lingering on mine a fraction too long before finally letting go. Then my phone buzzed. Bailey White. "Savvy, so sorry. Guess I'll be enjoying your happily ever after for you." Attached. A photo. Bailey, pouting perfectly, framed by Landon and Logan, each pressing a kiss to her cheeks like the world had conspired to turn her into a Disney princess. Grace saw it too. Her jaw clenched, nails biting into the straps of her handbag. "Those spoiled little shits. This is disgusting." I scrolled calmly, thumb hovering over the contacts of both Landon and Logan. One tap. Delete. Another. Delete. No hesitation. "If that's really who they want," I said softly, exhaling like I was emptying a lung I'd held my whole life. "Let 'em have her. Hell, same gene pool either way. Doesn't matter whose baby calls who daddy." Grace said nothing. She simply let me wheel my suitcase toward the gate, her eyes lingering on me like she wanted to memorize every inch before I vanished from her orbit. No tears. No turning back. Meanwhile, JFK Airport, Bailey White was still mid-giggle, uploading her selfie to Instagram, oblivious to the storm brewing a few terminals over. Landon Hastings, in contrast, looked like a man chasing ghosts. His phone was unlocked and locked again in frantic cycles, eyes darting toward the arrivals gate, as though sheer willpower could bend fate. "She's not here," he muttered, jaw tight, the words tasting bitter. "Savannah. She said she'd come." Logan finally noticed. "Dude, what's wrong?" "She's not here," Landon repeated, voice flat. "She didn't show. Savannah." Both of them tried calling, over and over, each ring bouncing back into the void of the soul-crushing automated monotone. "The number you have dialed is currently unavailable." Then came the red exclamation marks on their texts. Blocked. Hard blocked. Logan's face darkened, the storm behind his eyes palpable. He typed one last message out of pure spite. "Savannah, seriously? You done throwing your little tantrum yet?" Message failed. Landon stared at his phone, slack-jawed, the reality crashing in too late. He'd been too slow, too complacent. Savannah Summers, Savannah Hastings, no, herself, was already gone. And for once, no one could chase her. Turns out, life outside the Hastings mansion wasn't a non-stop tragedy. The real world, surprisingly, kind of amazing. Sunshine streaming through the windows. Streets that smelled like coffee and possibility instead of power and entitlement. People who didn't lie to your face while plotting behind your back. Freshman year was blissful. For the first time, I felt like Savannah Summers. Not some Hastings shadow, not some pawn in a legacy game. Until he showed up again. Hunter Hastings. It was summer break. My roommate and I had landed a freelance gig, shadow photography for a fashion shoot. Exciting, right? Except the client was a nightmare with the subtlety of a hurricane. No matter what angle we tried, what light we adjusted, she tore it apart. "You call that a shot? My blind cat could do better." We smiled, nodded, swallowed the sting. Couldn't risk pissing her off. One wrong word, and she could blacklist us from every halfway decent agency along the East Coast. "We're sorry. We'll fix it. Totally our fault," we repeated, mantra-like, crouched behind tripods and reflectors like kids hiding from a storm. Then the door swung open, and the air changed. Hunter Hastings, He didn't just walk in. He commanded the room. Tall, sculpted. The kind of angular perfection that made people think Photoshop was real. Golden sunlight streamed behind him, haloing his silhouette. A cinematic filter was probably following him around, accentuating every damn line of his jaw. He scanned the room casually, eyes sharp, appraising, but not judging. Not like the client. "What's going on?" His voice was calm, effortless, but there was a weight to it, like a command you didn't question. The client flinched. "Oh, Hunter! The main photographer bailed and sent these two amateurs." She sneered, hands flailing, like she expected him to back her up. Instead, he leaned slightly, casual as hell, but every inch of him radiated authority. "Maybe you should let them shoot freely. Give them some space to work." She blinked. "You're kidding." "I've seen their work," he said smoothly, eyes locking on mine for a fraction too long. "Actually won an award at the National Student Photo Comp last year." We hadn't, but the confidence in his words? Magnetic. She faltered, hesitated, and just like that, the door cracked open, iPads out, portfolio ready. For once, it wasn't our necks on the line, it was our talent. Shots clicked, angles captured, lighting perfect. The client's lips curved. "Okay, you're up." We nailed it. Every frame, every angle. She raved, offered referrals, opportunities we didn't even know existed before him. Later, Hunter drove us back to campus. The hum of the car was almost comforting, a strange shield from the world. My roommate, still floating from the wind, finally asked, "Thanks so much for the ride and everything. Savannah, who is this guy?" Panic. My brain scrambled for a safe answer. I opened my mouth, about to blurt, "Uncle," but Hunter beat me to it. "Her neighbor, door across from hers," he said casually, eyes on the road, posture effortless. Technically true. Dorm room counts, right? My roommate squinted, eyebrow raised, grin spreading. "Oh, neighbor brother, huh?" Hunter chuckled. Low, smooth. Dangerous in a way that made me want to punch him and hug him at the same time. And then, just like that, he pulled off, leaving the world a little hotter and a hell of a lot more complicated than it had been 5 minutes ago. I shook my head, heart racing. Neighbor? Yeah, right. After that day, Hunter kept showing up. Never in a way that felt suffocating. Always casual, effortless, like he could appear and disappear at will, bending the world around him without even trying. He never hovered. He never smothered. Just there. And every time he was, the air shifted. My chest tightened, my pulse spiked, and the universe seemed to lean in a little closer. My roommate, of course, noticed first. Sharp as a tack, she had a sixth sense for these things. Senior summer rolled in, internships, career fairs, networking dinners. Hunter somehow, subtly, like magic, connected us with one of the best freelance photography leads we'd ever seen. After one particularly long dinner meet and greet, the walk home was humid, sticky, city lights reflecting off puddles from a brief rain. My roommate nudged me, leaning in with that knowing smirk. "Be honest, does your hot neighbor have a girlfriend?" My chest constricted. "Why, you into him?" She raised one perfect brow, like I'd just asked the dumbest question in the world. "Girl, no, I've got a rotation already." "But he's totally into you," she said casually, like it wasn't a line that made my stomach twist. "What?" My breath hitched, uneven. She smirked. "Savvy, come on. You think I haven't noticed? No guy sticks around for 3 years just for kicks." My face heated. I opened my mouth to deny it, but the words got stuck. "And let's be real, you like him back, don't you?" I froze, heart hammering, speechless. "I've slept 6 feet from you for 3 years," she continued, smug as hell. "You like the daddy types." I wanted to deny it. I tried. My mouth said nothing. My cheeks betrayed me. "Thought so," she said with a triumphant nod. Then, suddenly serious, She jabbed a finger into my arm. Listen, if you want him, go get him. I blinked, unsure if she was joking. He's what, 8 years older? Dude's pushing 30. Men expire, babe. But right now, prime grade A man. I groaned, burying my face in my hands. Shut up. Meanwhile, back in his sleek black car, Hunter was driving home alone. The sun was low, painting the streets in a bloody gold, and he sneezed. A huge, sudden eruption that nearly made him swerve into the next lane. He swore under his breath, gripping the wheel tighter, eyes narrowing like the road had personally insulted him. Even then, somehow, he looked impossibly composed, like danger and charm were second nature to him. And me? My pulse still hadn't calmed. My brain was a mess of possibilities and what-ifs, and the undeniable truth. I wanted him. I couldn't shake what my roommate had said. The words replayed in my head like a broken record, messing me up for weeks. Senior year finally tipped the scales. I'd moved out of the dorms to be closer to my internship, and ended up crashing at Hunter Hastings' condo more often than I'd admit, even to myself. It was around 7 p.m., golden hour sunlight streaming lazily through the floor-to-ceiling windows. I was buried in IELTS prep, pencils rolling across notes, brain half melting from grammar drills, when my phone buzzed. "Can I ask you a favor?" His voice. Low, smooth, slightly slurred, just enough to smell the whiskey through the line, made my stomach drop. Even tipsy, Hunter sounded criminally good, like each word could short-circuit your nervous system. Where are you?" I asked, blinking, dumbstruck. He gave me a hotel name. My fingers fumbled with my keys as I called an Uber, heart hammering like I'd run a marathon in seconds. By the time I got there, the lobby was dimly lit, opulent, velvet everywhere, smells of polished wood and leather in the air. And there he was, sprawled across a couch like some fallen king, one leg draped over the armrest, eyes closed, a thin sheen of sweat on his forehead. His friend was pacing, phone pressed to his ear, looking panicked. The moment Hunter's gaze landed on me, his friend hung up and came over. "You must be savvy, right?" the guy said, extending a hand. "I'm Gavin Rivers, one of Hunter's people. Thanks for coming." I just nodded, throat tight, stomach fluttering. Didn't ask why he couldn't just get a hotel staffer to do this, why it had to be me. With Gavin's help, I guided Hunter into the Uber. He leaned heavily against me at first, muttering something incoherent, but I ignored it. He didn't grope me, didn't whine. Even stepping into the condo, he tried to walk on his own. I let him settle onto the couch, hands behind his head like a king surveying his kingdom, muttering a quiet, "Rest. I'll grab you something for the hangover." I turned toward the kitchen, but his hand caught mine, soft, deliberate. A tug, and suddenly I was being pulled down, straddling him on the couch. My heart slammed. Shit. I froze, palms planted beside his head, every nerve alive. He let out a low breath, hand brushing through my hair, thumb grazing my temple, the heat radiating off him like a furnace. "Savvy," he murmured, voice rough and intimate. "How long are you going to keep pretending you don't know?" "What?" "That I called you for a reason. That this whole drunk thing, it was just an excuse to see you." His eyes bore into mine, dark and raw, like I was the only person in the world who had ever mattered. "You've built this beautiful life for yourself, just like I always knew you would. And now, I've got no excuse to crash into it anymore." There was something fragile, almost heartbreak struck under his confidence, and it hit me in my chest. Without thinking, I leaned down, pressing a gentle kiss to the corner of his mouth. I grinned, bold. "Now's good." Hunter's eyes darkened in a flash. He moved like lightning, flipping us, pinning me beneath him, and kissed me with a hunger that made my knees weak. Not just desire, something deeper, years of patience, of watching, of knowing. I kissed him back like the world outside this moment didn't exist. Like all the hurt, the chaos, the Hastings drama, the Bailey disasters. They were just echoes fading into nothing. Because right then, right there, it was only us. Only this. Only the fire between us that had been simmering for years, finally roaring to life. After graduation, there were no more excuses left. Aunt Grace's invitation to come home hung over me like a warm, golden halo I couldn't dodge. She greeted me at the door, fussing over me like she had for years, asking about school, my photography, my life in general. I played along, smiled, answered politely, let myself enjoy it. For a few fleeting moments, it almost felt normal until the front door opened. And there they were, Landon and Logan Hastings, the golden twin boys from my past, frozen in the doorway like statues carved from sunlight and arrogance. Their eyes, that familiar mix of fire and command, locked on me instantly. And just like that, time stuttered. 3 of us, me and the twins, trapped in a dense, suffocating silence, so thick it made the walls hum. Too many unsaid words, too many shared memories, and too much resentment for one room to hold. Finally, I spoke, cool and deliberate. Lon, Lo, long time. Logan's mouth opened, then closed. Opened again. Something unsaid, sharp on his tongue. Landon's jaw tightened, eyes narrowed. Both of them looked like they'd been punched in the gut. Good. That reaction alone made the years of quiet battles worth it. Aunt Grace, ever the mediator, tried to break the tension with a soft laugh. You 2 little brats, 4 years away, and not a single visit home. And now Savvy shows up, and suddenly, you're back like dogs sniffing out a bone. She turned to me with that gentle, knowing smile that always made me feel seen. Why don't you stay for a few days? I'll cook us a proper family lunch, just like old times. I smiled back, sweet and syrupy, letting my words slide over them like silk. That's kind, Aunt Grace, but I'm just passing through. My boyfriend's on his way to pick me up. The silence hit first. Then Logan exploded. Boyfriend? What boyfriend? That's bullshit. You don't have a boyfriend. His voice was sharp, heated, like a whip cracking across the room. Impulsive, unrelenting, still the same Logan who always tried to control everything. He stormed forward, grabbing my wrist with a force that would have made the old me flinch, cry, beg. But not today. Let go! My voice was steel, every syllable deliberate. He didn't budge. Landon, calm and precise, stepped in like the big brother he always pretended to be. Logan, let her go. But... Now, Landon snapped. Logan finally released me, scowling, retreating a step like a petulant child caught in the act. My wrist burned, and I rubbed it slowly, deliberately. Then I let the words roll off my tongue, smooth, pointed, heavy with all the years of suppressed frustration. You 2 spent 4 years overseas playing house with Bailey White. Don't act like I wasn't allowed to live my life too. Landon's smile was soft, patronizing. Savvy. Come on, don't lie. I checked, I said, meeting his eyes evenly. 4 years. You didn't date anyone. You were waiting for us. The tension in the room thickened. Logan's fists clenched. Landon's jaw tightened, but his eyes softened. And now we're back. Landon continued, voice low, insistent. We're done with Bailey. We want things to go back to how they used to be. I swallowed hard, keeping my composure. I could feel the pull, the familiar gravity of them, but I refused to be dragged backward. The years had shaped me, made me sharper, stronger, unyielding. My life was no longer a footnote in the Hastings family story. I crossed my arms, tilted my head, and let them take in the truth without saying another word. I was done being anyone's shadow. You really thought you had it all figured out, huh, big bro? Hunter Hastings' voice cut through the room like a blade, slow, cocky, and sharp. He leaned against the doorway for a split second, then strolled toward me with that signature effortless confidence, like the entire house, and everyone in it, was just background for his entrance. Landon's jaw dropped. Uncle Hunter? Hunter didn't even glance at him. His eyes, cold and calculating, locked onto Logan like a sniper lining up a perfect shot. The air thickened. You could hear the quiet click of tension, like someone had just twisted the thermostat to full rage. Without breaking eye contact, he reached my side and laced his fingers through mine. Slow, deliberate, intimate. "Yeah," he said, that smirk curling at the corner of his mouth. "Little bro, I'm Savannah's boyfriend. Has been for a while now. So maybe next time, show your new aunt some goddamn respect." The room froze. Dead silence. Even the chandeliers seemed to hold their breath. It was the kind of moment straight out of one of those messy, overproduced family dramas. The kind where someone flips the table and no one dares to touch the pieces. Logan's face flushed crimson. His jaw tightened. "You sick bastard. You stole your nephew's girl." "I stole nothing," Hunter said, his voice smooth, icy, venomous. "You two dumbasses let her go 4 years ago like she was trash. And now you're crying over it? Grow up." Landon's chest heaved. His fists clenched so tightly the veins on his forearms bulged. "Hunter Hastings, I'm telling Grandpa about this." "Go ahead," Hunter shrugged, utterly unbothered. "Tell him how you two clowns flunked your way through Germany chasing after that discount Instagram model, Bailey White, the same girl who nearly tanked Hastings' family's rep in every goddamn social circle." He turned toward Grace Hastings, cool and composed, eyes sharp as a blade. "I mean, Aunt Grace, you're really going to let this spoiled brat talk to Savannah like that?" Grace stiffened, cornered, the polite calm she always maintained cracking just enough to let doubt seep in. "I'll handle them," she said quickly, voice tight. "They won't bother Savannah again." Hunter's gaze softened just enough to let a shadow of warning through. "Good." Then he squeezed my hand and tugged me forward. Slowly, deliberately, he walked me out of that house as if it belonged to someone else entirely. Because, in a sense, it did. That house, with all its grandeur and polished lies, had never been mine. It had been full of expectations I didn't ask for, whispers I didn't need, and judgments I refused to inherit. Every step felt like a reclamation. Every turn of the doorknob a severing of chains I'd carried for far too long. I could feel Hunter beside me, steady and present, like a shield made of skin and bone. By the time we reached the driveway, the weight of every slight, every insult, every expectation I'd endured fell away. That day, I took back my life, on my own terms. And even though Hunter didn't utter a single word about the Hastings Empire, the message was clear. Grandpa Charles got it loud and clear. Weeks later, Landon and Logan were shipped back overseas, supplied with just enough to maintain their inflated egos. They were gone. The chapter closed. And me? I walked into the sunlight with my hand in Hunter's. Finally untouchable. Finally untethered. Finally free. When I won the International Photography Award, the news didn't just break quietly, it exploded. And as if the universe had impeccable timing, the wedding announcement with Hunter dropped the same day. The internet lost its mind. Notifications poured in like champagne. Bubbles of congratulatory messages fizzing across my phone, my inbox, my social feeds. Headlines screamed, "Savannah Hastings, from maid's daughter to international star and Mrs. Hunter Hastings." That night, as I basked in the glow of my apartment lights and the subtle hum of my favorite jazz playlist, my phone buzzed with an unknown number. Curiosity mixed with a flicker of annoyance. I answered. "Savannah?" Bailey White hissed, brittle and sharp, every word dripping with envy and bitterness. "I can't believe you pulled this off." I leaned back on the velvet couch, legs crossed, sipping a glass of champagne, the golden liquid sparkling in the lamplight. Calmly, I let her bitterness hit me and roll off like water over polished glass. "I left them space," I said evenly. "You looked like the winner, for a little while. And still, even after screwing me over, Landon and Logan whispered your name in their sleep." Her intake of breath was audible, ragged, almost desperate. She didn't speak for a moment. I could hear the tremor in her voice when she finally tried to retort. You can't be serious. 4 years. 4 years, I interrupted softly but firmly. And I didn't come back. The more I stayed away, the more obsessed they became. I became untouchable. You, a bloodstain on their sheets, disposable. And your designer bags, champagne brunches, temporary smiles. They never made you happy, did they? A beat of silence, then her sigh. A brittle surrender. I smiled coldly, elegant, untouchable. You're giving yourself too much credit. Click, I hung up. For a moment, the apartment felt impossibly quiet. Then, like magic, the livestream comments on my wedding photos began to flicker alive again. I hadn't seen them in years, ever since I'd broken the script and chosen my own path. Holy shit, it's an epilogue! She really ended up with the hot demon uncle! Newlyweds on wedding night? Congrats, Queen. Their voices, virtual, distant, yet intimate, cheered for me now. Softer, sweeter. A celebration not just of my wedding, but of survival, of rising on my own terms. I smiled, almost wistful. Thanks, I whispered. Wait, Savvy, can you actually see these? One cautious comment blinked. I always could, I replied. A beat of silence. Then chaos. Messages poured in. Confessions, laughter. Inside jokes from strangers who had followed my journey and cheered me silently from afar. And in those digital echoes, I realized something I hadn't before. I'd been steering the story all along. Choosing not to chase, choosing my own path, had collapsed the old narrative like a house of cards. I blinked at the screen, and then asked the question I'd buried for years. So, what's the deal with Hunter? You said he's some kind of demon obsessed with me. That true? Heh, guess what? You're about to find out. Just then, the bathroom door creaked open. Steam curled lazily around the edges of the glass, filling the room with the warm scent of sandalwood and Hunter's cologne. A scent I recognized from every hallway, every shadowed moment over the past few years. He stepped out, towel draped low around his waist, hair wet, droplets sliding down the perfect cut of his chest and abdomen. Every muscle caught the light just right, sculpted like it had been carved for me alone. His eyes locked onto mine, dark, intense, and playful, a spark that could melt steel. Babe, he said, voice low, smooth, sinful. Shower's all yours. And just like that, the world narrowed. The awards, the fame, the gossip, all the drama, they faded into nothing. All that mattered was him, the moment, and the life we'd fought to claim on our own terms. I smiled a slow, wicked grin. Then I guess I'll take my time. Because now everything was finally mine.